Welcome to Unit 2 of the Computational Thinking and Design MOOC-Ed. I very much enjoyed reading the posts in Unit 1 and encourage you to continue to visit and continue to post in Unit 1. Unit 1 will remain open for the duration of the course. In Unit 2, we're going to begin to dive into the design process. The first step in the design process is to collect data so that we can understand the context of a problem. Because while we may have an idea of the problem we're solving when we start, it's important before we actually begin to solve it that we understand all of the factors at play, that we understand the people and the systems and the stakeholders involved and their needs from whatever solution we're going to create and their understanding of the problem as it exists for them. So we collect a lot of data, both quantitative data and qualitative data, in order to help us better understand the problem. Throughout the rest of this video, you'll have the opportunity to hear from some of our practitioners about how they collect and analyze data in their job contexts. Through the unit, you'll have the opportunity to learn about data literacy in the classroom, how we collect and use and share data in order to better understand and solve problems.
For us in evaluation, the problem itself is so driven by what stakeholders want to know that data collection really needs to be in service of that. So we spend a lot of time in the beginning phases talking about the program or organization or initiative, what they currently know about its strategies for implementation, what are some of the current issues, and then develop research questions from there. The next step is to use those questions and say, okay, what data can help me answer this question? So for example, it could be test scores, it could be interviews or focus groups with teachers or classroom staff or assistants, or interviews with students, for example, and then we map that back to the original question. So what does the data tell us about whether or not this program is working?
I prefer to be really context-driven in my own personal design process because you can't really have a good design without inferring the context around it because it won't fit for what its starting area. Breaking down the extent of the problem, the history of the problem, how that problem has been attempted to be fixed by other entities, if they have done anything to try to fix it, and whether or not any of those attempts failed or created an additional problem, or looking at precedents for what other people have done with similar issues in that same sort of environment.
So, the thing is medicine is all about data. Let's say you have a sore throat. My job at that point is to try and figure out what that sore throat means. And so when you come into the process and when you come into the exam room, we start collecting data. We start with data about vital signs, blood pressure, temperatures, medications that you're taking, other medical problems that you've had. We start asking about the specifics of what's going on with your illness. How long has it been going on? What type of symptoms do you have going on? Have the symptoms changed over time? Have you tried anything that might make it better? Have you tried anything that might make it worse? All of that data is useful in trying to figure out, does this fit a pattern of a simple illness that's going to resolve on its own? Does this indicate that there is something that's more likely going to need intervention by the doctor? Or does this really fit a pattern of more complicated illness that's going to require additional testing and additional workup to figure out what's going on?
So there's a lot of different ways that we get ideas for features and new products. The first is talking to educators, since they're most often our users. So we'll bring them in for focus groups and just have them talk through what the pain points are with what they have now, what kinds of things they might want. And then we also collect data from our tools when they're live to understand how people are using them. And we can use that data to understand what paths people are taking, whether those are good paths or not working out for them quite as well. And so we can use that data to identify areas that we need to address in future releases.
In our field, data itself marks the beginning of a project, and it is paramount to what we do. And our data collection process, and I call it the beauty of our field, is we can actually, it's something that you can touch and feel. We go out to the field as a civil engineer. We go out to the field and observe, traffic pattern or traffic signals and so forth. We come up with a sense of understanding of what the problem is, and then we develop a set of hypotheses to address the problem that we are seeing and develop a matrix of data that we would need to understand the problem and come up with a solution to address it.
Qualitative data kind of helps you fill the holes in the data process. So quantitative data are things that you can count, measurable numbers. How many students attended a particular session? How long did they stay? Dosage, for example, can be measured by quantitative measures, achievement scores. But qualitative kind of gets to the whys of everything. So if you have a program and you're trying to understand what the benefits are and then what the reasons are for participation, the qualitative data will help you answer that. So if you have attendance data, you can see how many people are attending, but if you want to know what's motivating them to attend, you would ask more qualitative questions like, why do you participate in this program as opposed to another program? Or, what are some of the benefits to the program beyond your achievement? So it kind of gets at some of those other soft concepts, some of those other behavioral concepts that quantitative data doesn't necessarily allow you to do.
Working in communications, it's kind of more a soft skills job, I would say. When you think of data, you think of scientists and hard data and crunching numbers, but I think it's important for people to realize that, if you're in the humanities or you're in this kind of more soft skills field, data is still an incredibly helpful tool. Just because you weren't a math minor or you didn't take a stats course doesn't mean that you can't take advantage of those tools that we now have that can kind of give you clues as to what may or may not be working and how you can kind of identify those problems and then implement solutions and how you know if your solutions are working.
Thinking about the people we just heard from, consider how you can use their experiences in your classroom. Throughout the remainder of Unit 2, you'll have the opportunity to learn about how different fields use and share data in order to better understand problems. In the discussion forums for this unit, you'll have the opportunity to come up with some ideas for classroom applications and share them and get feedback from your colleagues. This will also be the first unit that includes micro-credentials. Micro-credentials are a way for you to demonstrate mastery of the course material and earn additional credit for the course. I'm really excited about this week and look forward to seeing you in the forums.